There's different reasons to be against oil. I don't think any of them are valid, but when I listen to Steven Guilbeault, sometimes it sounds ideological, sometimes it sounds like a regional bias, like an anti-Alberta animus. I note that both Guilbeault and Trudeau are avid jet setters. I mean, they never stop traveling around. Guilbeault sometimes says weird things, and then he pulls back. He says, I don't want to invest in roads anymore, which I think betrays an ideology. But I've never heard either Guilbeault or Trudeau criticize oil from other jurisdictions. They always seem to either ignore conflict oil from OPEC or even favor it. For example, they don't put the carbon tax on imports from OPEC. What's going on with those two? Is it some legacy from Pierre Trudeau, sort of hate the West? Is it like a liberal tradition to hate oil and gas? Is it ideology? Is it tax greed? What's going on?
All I can think of is when Trudeau got elected, he said Canada is back. He felt that was very important, that the UN knew that a particular ideology had returned to Canada. And I think it goes back to Maurice Strong, who was one of the first proponents of shutting down the fossil fuel industry and having Canada take the lead with the approach that this country took on Kyoto and all of the subsequent UN conventions on climate change. And so I think that there really is an ideology, and we saw it when what was called the tar sands campaign started up in 2008. One of the issues behind that was the environmentalists thought, well, we've effectively managed to demonize coal, and they were happy with the progress they were making in phasing that out. But then they said, well, what's the next big problem? Well, it's transportation fuel. And so they said, where does America get its product from? And it was Saudi Arabia and Canada. And it's probably not very safe to go and campaign and protest in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So the whole strategy came shut down the access from Canada into the United States. Now, in the meantime, the Americans have dramatically increased their own production.
And good for them, I'm jealous.
And yet the strategy has still been isolate Canada, stop them from being a world player, which is so defeatist. I mean, that is not why you elect a federal government. You don't elect a federal government to shut down industries, to interfere with resource development, to interfere with wealth creation, to cripple an economy. And yet that the only way that I can describe the last 2 years of what we've seen under Steven Guilbeault has been precisely that. Because everywhere you turn, there is a new targeted policy aimed at phasing out fossil fuels, whether it's the emissions cap on oil and gas, the methane cap, whether it's the new plan for net zero cars being the only kind of car we can buy by 2035, whether it's the promotion of green hydrogen and the reluctance to talk about blue hydrogen, whether it's the tanker ban that they had off the West Coast, whether it's the lack of enthusiasm that they've had to promote pipeline development. You see one thing after another, all leading to, if you can take Canada out of the mix, maybe we'll be able to tell our friends in the international community that we're one of them. And that is not our job. Our job is, and the job of a federal government, is to make sure we get our products to market, is to make sure that every region is able to develop to its full benefit, and to make sure that we are a reliable friend and ally to our partners. We can be a central role in addressing issues of energy security, energy affordability, reliability, and we can reduce emissions. It's such a good story to tell. But I think we've seen a real turn in the last couple of years with this particular environment minister. And the reason I say that is I was reminded at CERA Week that Justin Trudeau did speak there in 2016. And he got a standing ovation 4 times. And the memory of his message was, no one would ever look at all of this incredible resource wealth and just say, let's leave it in the ground. So something's happened in the last couple of years. Maybe it's because he's longer into his mandate. He thinks he can get away with more aggressive action against our industry. But I'll just put it out there. They do not have the authority to shut down our energy industry. They do not have the authority to curtail our production. And we'll be fighting them every step of the way.
Hey, that's an excerpt from my show, The Ezra Levant Show, where I interview interesting newsmakers, in this case, Premier Danielle Smith from Alberta. If you want to see the whole interview, and I really recommended it, it was a very interesting interview, go to rebelnewsplus.com to subscribe. It's $8 a month, but if you use the coupon code Alberta, you get a good discount. So go to rebelnewsplus.com and use the coupon code Alberta.